Y'all, I am so excited for this episode because it really is the meat of this series. What I know you all are after anyway, designing those basketball offseason player development programs. Mm, mm, mm. Oh, yeah, I know you can't see me, but I am dancing behind the mic right now because I am obviously really excited to share my strategies with this because, truthfully, this is such a core to not only my love for the game, my motivation for developing my skills, but also where I believe a lot of my success has stemmed from. And we'll get into all of that in the episode today. But I think this really is about to be a game changer status for somebody out there. Amen. Hallelujah. Can I get a witness? Let's go. I'm so pumped. Hey there, I'm Tage Morrell, professional basketball player, coach, and your pro ball buddy, here to mentor you through practical advice and mental strategies for basketball success. Whether you've struggled along your basketball journey or simply want to reach your full potential, you're in the right place because it all starts, you guessed it, with your mindset. So let's train your mind like you train your body. Let's show up, get better, and become the kind of player and person you were made to be. You in? Let's get it. So, last episode, we were intentional with our rest and recharge in part 1 of the off-season series to make sure our tanks are full heading into the grind of the off-season. And today, we're adding reflection to that. And y'all, like I said, this is total game changer. And if you haven't been intentional about this, never thought about it, then wow, I'm so excited for you. If I asked you to show me your off-season calendar right now, what would it have on it? Would it be blank? Do you have a plan or know who you're working with to get yourself closer to that big basketball dream? I think random training might be your biggest off-season mistake. In fact, I think it's a lot of people's mistake in general. I talk about training and practicing with purpose, not showing up to the core and not having a plan. No, that's not us, not you, not from now on, and especially not for your off season. This is critical time, people, critical time, all right? And like I said, this is a huge part of my success. I really, really believe. I remember looking back at the past few years, past seasons, I mean, wow, since university and beyond, the off season has been where it's at. And I know having a clear program has transformed my progress. Specifically, I remember when David and I first moved to Australia and I was in my first pro contract overseas and we were together on the court constantly. He's the one that introduced the evaluation process that I'm going to take you through in this episode. And yeah, just really brought purposeful direction to my training. And yeah, the rest is history from there. It's just been every off season looking at things the way that we did back then, where we're on court together. We even did specific like field workouts together. We did a PJF program where I was intentional about my plyometrics and getting my quickness and my vertical jump higher. And guys, that was actually the first time I ever touched rim. Can you believe it? Yeah, that feeling was unreal because we were like working on it, and super focused on getting up and getting my vertical jump higher. And definitely recommend that PJF program. It was amazing, but so cool to like see the work pay off. And yeah, like I said, I just have so many fond memories of that time, and it has been the driving force moving forward because it's so enjoyable seeing your progress and then continuing to build on it. So that's honestly why I get so excited about sharing my strategies of the off season, because like I'm going to continue to emphasize this is where it's at. This is where you'll see the most growth, the most development. You don't have to worry about being sore for games. I mean, it is incredible. So really take advantage of this episode and take advantage of whenever your off season comes around. So let's jump into my strategy right now and see how you can design your own basketball off season training plan that you'll actually stick to. Okay, before you even get to the designing side, this is foundational to what you're going to put on your development program. So again, we're not just going out and getting shots up. We have a plan. We are focusing on the foundational mindset side, and it all begins with your reflection. Number one, reflect through evaluation, SWOT, and goal setting. So I know you don't know what half of that means, but we're going to dive into it. So the first step in your reflection process is to speak to a coach for feedback. So you just got done with your season. I would highly recommend getting some feedback from your coach. Get the whole picture of their perspective so that you can build off of that. And for me, I use what's called SWOT along with a 3-tier goal setting system. So what is SWOT? SWOT is actually an acronym, SWOT. That is the word that I'm saying. And it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities for growth, and threats to playability. So I'll give you an example of opportunities for growth and threats to playability. They kind of can get confusing and a little bit overlappy, but overlappy, is that a word? But opportunities for growth are a bit more of like the low-hanging fruit or like the easiest way to become a noticeably better player quickly in your off season, while the threats to playability are like where you maybe point out or name like specific game scenarios that when they come up, the coach sees you as a better or worse option for that one specific thing versus your other teammates or others on the depth chart in your position. So a specific example for me for opportunities for growth, I would say like I can expand my value by shooting the 3-ball better, and I can also improve my perimeter playmaking abilities as a big to be able to activate different actions. In fact, David and I were actually just working on this today. First day back to basketball, baby. Oh yeah, it was amazing and so good. Once again, like that hunger inside of me and the ability to work with a specific basketball trainer to help develop these aspects of opportunities for growth in my game. And it is so motivating, so inspiring, and so exciting. Now, a specific example for my threats to playability, this might include things that are a little bit out of your control, but it's good to recognize and analyze. So for me, especially in the WNBL, I'm a fairly undersized post. So I have to just, be aware of that and have that sort of play a part in the way I approach my workouts and what sort of drills I'm looking at to ensure that I minimize that sort of threat to my playability. And some other aspects for me are maybe, and I think I've gotten a lot better at this again, probably because I've been able to reflect and really hone in on improving some of these things. So going back to a specific game scenario, a coach might want a coverage where we're switching everything on defense. And as a big man, I specifically have to make sure that I am switchable. Otherwise, that's a threat to my playability when the coach doesn't see me as being switchable and he sees someone else in my position as a better option. And like I said, some of these can overlap with the opportunities for growth, but if the coach realizes that the other team is starting to help off of me and sort of sag off of me whenever I'm at the perimeter, then they might decide to sub in the other 4 or 5 in my position to be a shooter and eliminate that extra help and disadvantage for the team. So you maybe can start to see how reflecting on this sort of thing can really set you up for success when you have the knowledge and you know exactly what you need to work on, and then you go and build your plan from there. So basically, you're just writing that acronym down and filling that out. What do you think your strengths are? What do you think your weaknesses are? And what do you think your opportunities for growth could be? What are your threats to playability? I think these are also some really great things to get your coach's perspective on, because without this and without obviously a coach's perspective, you might not be able to know what to focus on. And we might think that we're really good at something when we're possibly not, or we didn't do something that the coach actually wanted from us or expected from us. And so again, when you're taking back this feedback, make sure you are really receptive. Like, take this as gold, not personal. And oh my gosh, I can't believe he didn't think that I was good at that. Really just soak it up and be hungry and willing to get better. Because if this coach thinks something of you, then that potentially will help you for the future. That feedback is necessary. And so that's why I'm saying you got to go seek it out. If you don't have like an end of season review with your coach, I highly recommend you actually seek it out. You go. This is the difference between good players and great players. And you're willing to almost put yourself in an uncomfortable position if that's what it takes. Okay, and then the 3-tier goal setting. I set out goals for the off season, goals for the next season, and my ultimate goals for my basketball career. In some of the previous episodes that you've listened to, you know how prominent this is for me, and again, how much it helps me stay motivated throughout the season, and how, it just inspires me, keeps me going for all this time, and really getting to look back at the seasons and know that I have accomplished the goals that I set out to accomplish. And it's just really, really encouraging. So I'll just share an example with you of my goals for this mini off season that I'm currently in right now. Number 1 is keep my body right. So y'all know that I'm in the middle of moving to Canberra from Perth, and I am very aware that as an adult, this takes a lot. So I just really need to take care of business. And I have to take that into consideration with my basketball career because it truly is all encompassing. Basketball requires your entire body, your mental state, your mental health is important, and also prioritizing sleep, of course, so that we can get the best out of the workouts. And within this move also is kind of incorporating family time. And I think that also goes back to staying grounded and mentally healthy. So that all falls under taking care of business. And the other thing I would say under keeping my body right is training with my strength and conditioning coach. Like I mentioned previously, I have not stopped since NBL 1 season ended, but that's because we came up with a specific plan, and this is a mini off season, and I've got to keep up my strength, conditioning, and quickness. Y'all heard me mention the threats to playability for me, and from the beginning in these off-season workouts, improving my quickness has been a huge, huge focus, and it has been incredible watching the growth. But yeah, that is a huge emphasis even now in my trainings with my strength and conditioning coach, who I absolutely love and really think has done a phenomenal job in getting me prepared and able to be switchable. Okay, and then obviously also keeping my body right requires nutrition. That could also fall under like the moving and like taking care of business side of things because, guys, it is really hard to get enough fuel in when you have so many things on your to-do list and tasks to take care of. And yeah, it's just a lot. But again, this is where the success starts. You have to be intentional and reflect on all of your needs and everything that will ultimately benefit your performance. Because otherwise, if you don't reflect, you don't analyze, you don't understand what you need, it's just throwing spaghetti at the wall and, oh, shoot, I didn't take care of that. And dang it, I'm behind on my development now because this and this came up. I didn't eat properly. And yeah, so this is all under my goals within this month. And improving my finishing versus taller players is also a goal of mine because, like I mentioned previously, that's another like threat to my playability. So it just goes back to minimizing that threat. And my third goal, of course, is improving my ability from the perimeter with my threes and playmaking. So there you go. There's my entire mini off-season goals list that I always pull from in order to design my program, which we'll get into in a second. And I would also say that some of this list is definitely going to carry over into my goals for the next season. But we know one of my biggest goals I'm going to just continue to build upon from last season as well is improving my ability from the perimeter. The goal for me this past season was to have more higher volume threes and to obviously increase my percentage with the threes. And I got to do both of those. And wow, like how how encouraging is that? And to know that, okay, this hard work is paying off, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to take that into my off season and continue to build on that and continue to take that into the next season. I'll probably relook at this when I arrive in Canberra, because it obviously will take some like settling in, getting used to trainings and seeing kind of the role that the coach has for me. And that will probably dictate a little bit of the direction that I'm heading for the goals for the next season. Because again, like I've spoken about previously, it is really important to take into consideration the role that you are playing on your team, especially when it comes to where your focus should be throughout the season. And my ultimate goal for my basketball career at this point in my life is honestly to play at the highest level possible, most definitely, but also like longevity and to really have enjoyment with it and continue. Like I said in the little recap of my NBL 1 West season, it is so crazy to me that I am still at this point developing my game. And I think that should just be proof to y'all that especially if you're like 18 years old right now, guess what? You have so much more growing to do, and development never stops. So you might as well start falling in love with it now, because when you focus on the process, you fall in love with the process, you are truly setting yourself up for success. So yeah, I really just want to play at the highest level possible and continue to develop my game and just really compete and take advantage of the opportunities that my career is giving me at this point in my life. And I guess that has a lot to do with pouring into you guys and sharing my experience, sharing my knowledge, and really growing this business to be sustainable for the future to help many, 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 many more players. So this is my reflection process, and whatever your system, just know without an evaluation, without reflecting, you're setting yourself up for an off season of aimless workouts heading in the opposite direction of your basketball dreams and goals, which is why I think this step is really, really critical, really essential, super important. Don't skip it. Okay, number 2. You've got to build your basketball development program. Okay, now this is getting into the nitty gritty where you actually utilize your postseason reflection. So, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your opportunities for growth? What are your threats for playability? Utilizing these reflections and coming up with drills based on the skills that you have determined need fine-tuning or work on or strengthening. This is where it gets invaluable, you guys. If this is your focus, then there's just no way that you will not grow. So obviously from here, you have to collect specific drills in accordance to these needs of yours. Now, if you really feel like you are totally lost here, you can't do that at all, I first want to challenge you. You know a lot more than you think, and you probably can come up with something. But if you really feel like you need help, I would encourage you to find a trainer. And I, of course, am a trainer myself. And like you should know by now, I have a free mini course online for you to utilize right now, right this moment. It actually includes a bonus Setting Goals Like a Pro worksheet where it gives you a guide and template for plugging in your goals and figuring this all out. So make sure you check that out in the show notes. I will put the link right there for you to go directly there. And there's also plenty of resources on ProBallBuddy.com. I've got a few drills already if you're wanting to focus on your conditioning through basketball too. There's an article specifically on basketball conditioning drills. So I think you could find some gold in there. Now, on top of the basketball plan, you definitely would want to add a strength and conditioning plus mobility plan. Again, ideally, you want to work with a strength and conditioning coach here. And disclaimer, I am definitely not that. I am not qualified or certified with the strength and conditioning side of things, But I will say I have a lot of experience, so I really can only share with you my story and my experience. So I started in 8th grade, if you're wondering about that. There's quite a bit of debate over like what age you should start, but personally I think like you can't do anything wrong with body weight, so why not start there? So I was 14 years old when I started lifting weights, and it was really just because my 8th grade team was doing some weightlifting together. And today, like I said, I work with a trainer. He's awesome. Shout out to Christian at I Am Fit. Highly recommend. But if you can't get yourself a trainer, these are the 3 muscle groups that I think are really important for basketball players. Your core, legs, and shoulders, and with your legs, particularly glutes, quads, and hammies. And then it's also important, like I mentioned, to make sure you include mobility within your strength and conditioning program. Y'all know how common ankle rolling and hip problems and just injuries in general are, right? So mobility is going to be the key thing that really helps strengthen and give you that mobility to avoid injuries, or at least avoid like really bad injuries, or, take away the length of recovery time necessary for injuries. All right, all of this, the strength and conditioning and mobility plan helps you dominate and lower risk of injury. I cannot encourage this enough. I think this needs to be a priority no matter what. And I know I would not be the basketball player I am today without having worked in the weight room off season after off season. So if you want to go far with basketball, make this a priority as soon as you can. All right, it's plug and play time. The third and final step for designing your basketball off-season training plan that you'll actually stick to is design your basketball off-season calendar. All right, now before we go into this, I want to also preface that this is where you need to decide if you're doing solo or partner training and like what fits you best. Now you might be like, oh, why do I need to decide that? Well, I think it's just good to think about. And again, we're all about being intentional and not getting caught off guard with things. So I really feel this is necessary to throw in here because I think there are pros and cons to both. And I think some people work in one or the other better than others do. So the pros and cons for working solo, really for both of them, it all comes down to accountability, focus, and efficiency. And again, it depends on who you are. So I'm just going to use me for an example. I am pretty disciplined and, like I said, have a hard time telling myself to take a rest. So I don't necessarily need extra accountability, although I will say it does come in handy sometimes. There were definitely moments this season even where I probably wouldn't have gone to the gym by myself if I didn't have my trainer working with me. But that's, like I said, just because I was like so run down and sick like constantly. But so accountability and focus. I definitely have a much better time focusing when I am solo. And then I'm also much more efficient when I'm solo. This is generalizing, of course. I suppose it depends on who your partner is, but for the most part, I know that I am just like boom, 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 tick things off the list, let's go, get it done. Whereas with a partner, there might be accountability, but then when it comes to the actual training bit, it can be a little bit less efficient and definitely less focused, especially if you're with someone that you just chat, and maybe they're not as like focused as you or like determined as you. Maybe they haven't gone through these steps to building your training plan. I just think it's important to take into consideration. However, if you have someone who you work really, really well with and their teammate especially, I think it's really good for team bonding and sort of building that chemistry and camaraderie together. Just make sure that you're open and honest and you hold each other, like truly utilize that accountability factor. Like you are entering into the workouts, not only staying consistent with them, but also being ultra efficient and focused and determined and being vulnerable with your goals and transparent so that you can see each other's growth, cheer each other on, hold each other to those things even per workout. Super, super important. Okay, Now, once you've decided that, it can also help you with your calendar so that you know a little bit what sort of timelines you have, how much time you need to set aside, and maybe you need to really work with the person you're deciding to train with to come up with your calendar plan. Now, the other thing here that I have to preface, because you do need to set time aside for this, is recovery. We're going to talk about this in part 4 of the off-season series, but I'm throwing this in now because it's that important. You need to make time for recovery attached to your workouts, and we'll leave that there. And like I said, you'll hear more on that in part 4. So those things noticed, deciding on solo or partner training, and making sure you leave time for recovery. Now is the time where you put your plan into a calendar. All right, are you guys lovers of hard copy? I definitely am, but honestly, I have created in the past my off-season calendar on a Google Sheets doc, and these days I literally just take a whiteboard, write out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and plug in where my workouts go. Then I transfer it over to my Apple Calendar on my iPhone. So it honestly just works really well for me that way. And if you don't have a phone yet, I highly recommend using a good old-fashioned planner. I actually also use a planner to write out my intentions every week. So I typically know which time block is set aside for my basketball and my gym and my recovery, but I do have a check-in every Sunday where there might be, I just check to see if there's any sort of change or interruption to my routine throughout that week. Maybe there's an event or someone wanting to catch up and can only do a certain time. I check this every week so that I can ensure I don't miss out on my workouts, and I stick to what I've committed to for my player development program. Again, with all of this, don't make it complicated. Do what works for you, because we're all different and we all have different learning styles. We also have different preferences when it comes to hard copy, technology, whatever works for you that's going to help you stick to your plan. But I share with you what I do just in case you can adopt that yourself. Now, the other thing with this is being smart with how you're setting out your calendar. All right. So you guys might have heard of SMART goals, and I really want to be specific here on how to implement your SMART goals into your off-season calendar or when you're designing your program. So SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Okay, so be specific with the times you choose to work out. Easy. All right, check. Have your workouts be measurable by dedicating specific drills to each day or workout slot and setting goals for appropriate drills. All right, this is really important for that motivation side, because if you don't have things that are measurable, then you're not going to be able to see your growth, and that plays a huge part in your motivation, which we'll talk about in the next episode as well. But yeah, just make sure that you have some specific drills that are measurable and attainable. Make sure those measurable goals are attainable for yourself and whoever else is taking you to and from the basketball gym. For example, your parents maybe. Okay, so make sure that when you're building your calendar, your goals are actually attainable. You're not just not considering time, place, your schedule, your parents' schedule, your family's schedule. Take all of that into consideration and make sure that it's actually attainable and that you're not just setting yourself up for failure right away. Realistic, be realistic with the amount of time you block out for your basketball workouts each week. Okay, like not only is it attainable for you, but is it actually what's going to help you succeed and get better? If your goal is to increase your field goal percentage, for example, well, shooting 10 shots a day is not going to cut it. So make sure your work rate is in alignment with your goals, and what you're doing is also age and level appropriate, like realistic for you to accomplish. And then timely. Base your goals on a specific time frame. In this case, the off season is your time frame. Boom. Done, easy. Now you have your SMART goals. So how cool is this, right? I mean, evaluation creates direction, y'all. This is so important and so exciting. I mean, really, when you break this all down, when you write it all out, I'm telling you right now, it is going to be a game changer for you. No pun intended. Or pun intended? I don't know which one it is. Anyway, I really believe your SMART goals and the commitment to that calendar are the glue that keeps your plan together and keeps you on track. And a little bonus for you, I would highly encourage including film study in your plan as well. Now, again, this is a lot of time if you add it all up, so I did this as a little bonus instead of plugging it into the calendar right away. But if you do have time, I mean, even just like an hour a week is probably really good. And it doesn't even have to be an hour. Like, you can do a focused 15-minute film session and still get something incredibly effective for your learning and your development. So really consider adding that into your plan, especially if you're like me and you're a visual learner. Some ideas for you are maybe to not just watch your own film, like that's definitely huge and helpful, but learn from someone you admire or have similar strengths / positioning with, because maybe they are at a level that you want to get to one day and you feel like you can put yourself in their shoes and say, yeah, I can see myself being that kind of player. So they're the perfect person to learn from. Okay, I am sitting here thinking I probably should have included that in the calendar because it truly is very important and it's easy. Like I said, 15 minutes a week, y'all. Focus, time, and you can get a lot out of that. Hopefully by now you can see why I am so excited and why I actually believe that this strategy will help you stick to that basketball offseason training plan. Okay, you've got clarity on what helps you most, working out with others or working solo. You have an understanding of the why behind what you're doing, so your progress is purposeful and visible. And you've got knowledge on what to strengthen in the gym. No excuses anymore. And especially when you take into consideration that finishing touch mini course being accessible to you for free right now. I mentioned it in the last episode, but you're going to continue to hear me harp on about this because I am so excited about it. I added in some fresh direction, new challenges, accountability, and more opportunity for you to interact with me, because I mean it when I say I really want to help you actually feel motivated to see your development, go get buckets and gain confidence, all for free. So please, like I said, no more excuses. It's either day one or one day, and I'm here to make it day one for you. In fact, coming up in part 3 of our off-season series is even more help with staying disciplined and mentally tough. We're titling it Discipline and Mental Toughness, How to Stay Hungry All Off Season. I'm telling you, this all goes so well together, so I'll catch it in the course. Otherwise, stay tuned for part 3. That's a wrap for today, friend. I hope this episode gave you something to think about and something to take into your next workout, practice, or game time. If it hit home, will you do me a favor? Share it with a teammate you care about. And I would love it if you could leave me a review to let me know you're listening and help us reach even more athletes just like you. If you haven't yet, be sure to hit follow so you don't miss the next episode. And you can always find more tools and encouragement at proballbuddy.com. Remember, greatness starts in your mind, and you gotta fall in love with the process of becoming great. So keep showing up and have patience in the process. I'll see you next time.